free your staff to focus on high-impact work while offering round-the-clock assistance to every student. With Element 451, you can deploy AI agents that reason, act, and provide support at scale, solving problems, analyzing data, and crafting personalized outreach instantly. These AI agents expand your team's abilities without replacing the human touch, allowing staff to dedicate their time to what matters most. Unlock the future of workforce enablement at element451.com.
Marketing can have such an influence for you at post-application, current student retention, like almost offering to be a support lever for different departments can help start to open up some of those conversations.
We know as marketers KPIs, we know social media trends, we know website language, but other people do not. And I think coming to a meeting, the best thing that you can do for leaders and for yourself is to break that down into numbers and things that people are going to care about.
Welcome to The Application, a podcast focused on actionable takeaways to help you level up your marketing and enrollment management game. I'm your host, Dr. Allison Turcio, Assistant Vice President of Enrollment and Marketing at Siena College. Join me every Tuesday for discussions with some of the best minds in higher ed marketing and enrollment management. The Application is part of the Enrollify network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher ed professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal faves linked in the show notes below. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. Let's tackle the barriers that get in the way of higher ed marketers, things like organizational silos, fear of AI, and risk aversion to new strategies. We all love change, right? But for every challenge, there's a solution. And we're here to talk about how AI can break down these walls and move our marketing forward. So joining me are two guests from Vision Point Marketing, Katie Campbell, Chief Client Officer, and Sarah Mullins, Marketing Strategist. These two bring a wealth of experience in enrollment marketing, branding, and AI-driven strategies. Katie and Sarah, welcome to the show.
Great.
Great to be here, Allison. Great to be here.
I have more of a fun question to start, and I'm going to have Sarah answer this one. Is there a brand out there that you think higher ed marketers should be taking notes from right now from another industry?
Yes. So I would say my favorite one right now that higher ed can really kind of take some notes from is Aura Ring. So if you're familiar, it's see, Katie has one.
Oh,
so mine's charging right now. It died. But if you don't know Aura, they are essentially an Apple Watch for your ring. It measures all of your metrics, your sleep, your heart rate variability, all of the things. And the thing I love about Aura is that they aren't trying to appeal to everyone. You know, they are focused and drilled in on women's health. They significantly invest in research in women's health, which is an under-researched topic. And they partnered with higher ed institutions that are research one that are focused in on menopause research, for example. And I think the beauty of Aura is they're focused in on women's health and not one thing. But, you know, everybody has a heart rate. Everybody has these metrics that Aura can measure. So it's, even though they're appealing specifically to women, it also appeals to men at the end of the day. And it appeals to people that aren't as ingrained in their health as Katie and I tend to be. So I think that higher ed institutions, they try to be everything to everyone. Aura Ring is not doing that. And I think that's
even if they could, they clearly could, but they're not. They're making that choice.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think, you know, the headline here is really higher ed can use some specialization and less generalists. Some institutions can absolutely appeal to everyone, but I think the more we can learn from these brands that are focused in on, you know, one audience or one focus, even though they can focus or have other audiences, I think would be really great for higher ed to learn from.
Yeah, I like that. And just kind of owning your audience and really speaking directly to them. I find that can be very freeing when you have those opportunities to speak very directly to a specific audience and about the specific thing that relates to them. So that could be a great opportunity But let's dive into some of the things that get in the way of us seizing opportunities like that in higher ed, those roadblocks. What do you see as the biggest things preventing enrollment marketers from executing innovative strategies or thinking in terms of like these other industries and what they're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one thing is that Katie and colleagues went to the AMA Higher Ed conference and asked this question, and people assume that the answer is budget. We don't have money, we're restricted with budget, which is absolutely a challenge in higher ed. I don't want to gloss over that too much. But the number one thing that came up in AMA was silos, was working with other team members across campus, within your own team, all of the different teams that you have to interact with. I always say, the higher ed version of the chicken or the egg, which one comes first? The higher ed version is really who's responsible, enrollment and admissions, or is it marketing? So I think it's no one's fault that higher ed is kind of built with barriers and silos. It's just how we're structured. But I think there are opportunities for us to break those silos. I know it's a lot harder than it. We can sit here all day and talk about it, and it's a lot harder than it is. But when I was on the higher ed side, I definitely saw that. And there are ways that we can break those barriers down.
Yeah, I feel like alongside that too, Sarah, it's such a great point. Even across those different departmental lines or verticals or silos, I think in higher ed, coming from outside higher ed and then seeing up into this industry for the last 5, 6, 7 years, there's so much maybe pressure or uncomfortability or stress that comes with the idea of failing. And in marketing, we are trained to have this mindset that there really is no failing. There's only testing. We're just learning constantly about should we talk to this audience or how should we talk to them and so forth. But when trying to communicate failures, I say with quotes or air quotes, is when you try to communicate that to people outside of that marketing department that have that mindset all the time, it can be really hard. It can come off as a loss or a miss or a wrong call. And I think that kind of prevents us maybe from trying these new things.
Well, and our mistakes are perhaps more visible than other people in the organization. So you're really like putting yourself out there when you're trying something new. And that's scary no matter who you are, right? So I can feel and sense a lot of nods of heads right now as people are listening to this when we're talking about silos and just sort of like risk tolerance at our organizations. And so those are definitely major challenges I hear a lot, we all face. But let's shift to what can we do about those things, right? Because that's what we want to talk about on this show. How can we take action around them? So how do we start breaking down those barriers? Where do we begin?
I wish I had a magic wand to solve this problem, but I think one thing that comes to mind that's unique in higher ed is that there are so many different people that we interact with. If you work for a grocery store chain, the CEO, the marketing department, all the way down to the people that are on the ground bagging groceries, they all live in that world of groceries. Whereas in higher ed, we live in the world of biology professors and engineering professors and groundskeepers and all of these different people that make up like this total ecosystem. People live there, they eat there, they work out there, they go to class there. So there's this whole it's an environment that we're working within. And I think we kind of forget that sometimes and don't give ourselves grace in higher ed that, hey, we have a lot of people at the table. So I think
it's complicated.
Yes.
It's not simple. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That is one challenge that I faced when I was on the higher ed side. And we're all speaking different languages and a lot of different things, a lot of different priorities. So as a marketer, I felt the need to make it easier on myself and on others to kind of break that barrier down and talk to others in a way that they're going to understand what I'm talking about. We know as marketers KPIs, we know social media trends, we know website language, but other people do not. And I think coming to a meeting, the best thing that you can do for leaders and for yourself is to break that down into numbers and things that people are going to care about. All of these metrics and campaign things that we track here at Vision Point. I know when I was on the higher ed side, we tracked Google Analytics. Most people in the room don't care about that. We do. It's very important to us and our success. But bringing the things that matter to the table is really important. How many students did you get in the room? How many website traffics did you get? That is one way as marketers we can kind of break down and kind of meet in the middle and talk about things in like a way that other people may not initially understand.
Yeah. So we got to get to the so what for the person that's in front of us.
Absolutely. Yep.
Absolutely.
So
I think kind of
we got to do the work.
absolutely. I think almost like a mantra too is data over ego, right? It's not about if you tried the wrong thing or the right thing. It's like, what did it make up for in the end, to Sarah's point? And marketing can support every phase of the funnel. And so frequently I think people think, oh, marketing's up here, admissions.
Yeah, the brand piece of it and not,
Yeah. And then student success even further. And it's like, oh no, marketing can have such an influence for you at post application, current student retention, like almost offering to be a support lever for different departments can help start to open up some of those conversations, because sometimes it's just hard with so much going on in higher ed. I feel like everyone's title has like 3 commas because they have to do so many things. So just even getting to the table and finding a kind of symbiotic benefit to working with marketing could be a help.
It's sounding like B2B on your campus to me, right? So you are all at Vision Point, but there's so many partners out there, and we have partners that we work with at Sienna as well. But you would come in with that, how we can help you with your challenge. That's how you would come, right? As a partner coming to a higher ed institution. So what I hear you saying is that the marketing people, whether enrollment marketing, communications, you've got to be going to your campus partners with that mindset, understanding their challenges or seek understanding of their challenges so that you can share how you can help with that, how marketing can help with their pain point.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think that back to the silo conversation, I think we are so siloed, and we are immediately, it's like, no, I don't have time for that office or that person or that department. Or actually, when you create that symbiotic relationship, they help you, you help them. And when it comes to like the enrollment process, you have a student reach out to admissions, you need to talk to someone, or, you have email compos that you need to send out to these audiences. You can learn a lot from creating those relationships. And I always kind of say, my secret weapon on campus was making friends with people in other departments, because when I wanted to get something done, that is how I got it done, really. You have to know those people across campus. And I know my campus was a square mile, and we all went to the same grocery stores and Starbucks and all of that. So I had the privilege of being close with these people physically, but I think making friends is such an important part, and sounds like an obvious thing, but it really is important to, just like you said, Allison, is going out to those offices and departments and saying, hey, I know you're struggling with this. How can we help as a marketer? And I think that's so important.
The next era of higher ed is here. AI that's both scalable and deeply human. At the 2025 Engage Summit, learn how to use agentic AI to personalize outreach, engage proactively, and free time for what matters most. This Don't Miss event is happening June 24th and 25th in Charlotte. Enrollify listeners get $50 off with code Enrollify50. Don't wait. Register at engage.element451.com. Well, we're very used to making our audiences feel seen and heard. We need to do that with our campus partners as well, really. And it is obvious and it is important, but it's not easy because we're so busy, right? So we have to build that in as priority, which is one of those things you have to gain this mentality around prioritizing that. I want to talk about how AI can help perhaps overcome some of these challenges next. But first, I just want to say to our listeners, if you're enjoying these insights, subscribe so you never miss an episode, and also sign up for my newsletter at AllisonTurcio.com. Katie, I suspect this question is going to be for you, because AI can seem like another hurdle, right? Because it's another thing now that we have to figure out. It's kind of like when a new social media channel comes out, it's like, oh gosh, now we have to make room for this one too. I was kind of excited about TikTok going out just because like it's a resource. Yeah, it's just one less thing that you have to resource. Now, I mean, obviously that's a very selfish kind of perspective, because I know that it's a great way to connect with students. But, every time there's another thing, we have to grow within a lot of times the same resources for that thing. And AI is one of those. So, but it could be a tool that helps us with some of these big challenges we have around silos and the other things we've been talking about. So, Katie, what are some ideas you have for how AI can help us?
Yeah, I think it's such an interesting question because to what you all were talking about earlier, so much of it comes down to be the most effective marketer and enrollment marketer that you can be comes down to prioritization and time. And that's really where I think AI is such a linchpin in allowing people to kind of scale up or evolve how they've been a marketer on campus, break down silos, or even the work that they're doing. So some of the beauties of AI in general, and I say all of this with an asterisk of like, use AI in a smart fashion, right? Keep in mind all of the disclaimers that come with it. I very much move forward with use AI like a smart intern. It might need some help, but it can give you a huge start. So around that, back to that notion of sometimes in higher ed, we can be afraid to fail in our marketing efforts or and how we talk to our students. AI allows you to truly fail fast, learn fast, move forward. So it can take away the blank slate paralysis that can sometimes hit when you have to develop a new comm flow or think of a new campaign or segment for this brand new program that's about to start. But it allows you to kind of try out things quickly without having too much of a sunk cost bias, if you will. Yeah. I think so frequently we're like, oh, well, I spent 12 hours on this, so I need to give it 2 months in market to test. And it's like,
yeah,
you don't. Yeah. So get that barrier out of your way to allow you other time to focus on the relationships, the ground game that you all are talking about, and how that can then help everything that you do in your enrollment marketing operation.
I think when I hear a lot around the fear of diving in and just trying it, because clearly there are efficiencies that the AI can help us with, particularly generative AI. We know that. But there's this fear of losing a human touch. Mm-hmm. And also, if you're a creative, if you're a graphic designer, you're a writer, and sort of that pride of ownership of your work, which is well-earned and deserved. So what are ways that we can be using AI to sort of enhance, which is what you're talking about. Let's talk about some specific examples. How can we use it to enhance our work rather than replacing our work?
Absolutely. No, you're spot on, because that's where I think generative AI is the game changer. There's a couple major CEOs, including CEO of Netflix, has come out and said, you won't be replaced by AI. You'll be replaced by someone who knows how to leverage AI and really take advantage of all the efficiencies it can give you. So to your question, Allison, how can it enhance versus totally supplement? A couple of specific ideas. One is we started this conversation off talking about brand. Your brand is your friend. I think so frequently people kind of view brands as, oh, I'm now locked into my brand. But your brand opens up doors for, oh, now we can express ourselves this way and that way. One great way to use AI is share with the generative AI LLM or learned language model about your brand. Here's our pillars. Here's our mission statement. Here's some of our past communications. Okay, now that you have that, help me draft a 2-sentence Facebook post about our upcoming open house. And it can do that in the voice of your brand. It can give you a starting point to do that in the voice of your brand. So it's not coming out of nowhere. It's taking who you are as an institution, leveraging that to give you a first draft. Some other ways too, of course, is just even automating administrative tasks back to getting you as much time as possible. Generative AI can be super helpful when it comes to scheduling and reminders. But I think something, especially knowing probably some of our listeners here are deep in the weeds of their CRM, is around creating dynamic content. There's generative AI models that can take what a user fills out on a form or even the pages that they've gone to on your website and then use that to say, actually, instead of showing them their first message being about financial aid, they've already shown interest in our health sciences program. Let's actually have their first message be about our health science offerings and opportunities. And we can use that as a way to get the right communications in front of the right people. But you still need administrators and marketers and everyone on the enrollment teams to make all of that happen.
I like this idea that you're proposing of using it on like the front end or sort of the back end, right? So use it as the idea generator that you then build and edit from, or put something into it and use it as iterative changes, like customizations to particular student audiences based on what you already wrote. So that's sort of maintaining the integrity and the authenticity of the content. So an example from something I've done recently is we have these little quiz questions that we ask in our Slate portal. And the student, based on their answer, I kind of have an idea of, is the student into sports, outdoor activities the most, service learning, like what is their thing? So we have a message, a communication already that we want to send to students, but then I can ask generative AI to say, okay, can you now customize this message for a student you know is into sports? Can you now customize it to a student who's now into service and community volunteerism, right? So it's not replacement, but like on the edges to being able to help you.
Absolutely. And also when you don't have, maybe you don't have a wealth of students right at your side to gut check these messages against, you can even use prompts within generative AI to say, hey, this is what I'm sending. What is confusing about this message? So it can kind of start to prompt you to help your communications level up too.
And that goes along with the metaphor of the intern, because if you had a student intern sitting next to you, that's exactly the kind of thing that you would be asking them. So I love that. Give it a description of who you're trying to talk to, and then have it judge your work a bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You talked about sort of getting faster at knowing what's working and what's not working, and being wise about how you're spending your time. How have you seen AI-driven insights influence those kind of campaign decisions in real time? What can we be looking at? What can we be getting from AI to make those quicker decisions?
Yeah, absolutely. And Sarah, curious to your thoughts here too. But I think from different AI models that we've leveraged or used, we can absolutely get insights not only from the AI that's built into some of our ad platforms and marketing platforms to say this creative is performing better than this creative, which might give you an indication that a certain message is hitting more than another message. Now, what's really interesting is when you compare like student campaigns to parent campaigns, and you say, oh, messages about campus safety seem to be doing really well for our parents, lowest for our students, no surprise. But messages about campus life, number one for students, maybe low. And AI is able to kind of produce those insights and even predict those insights on some platforms a lot faster than we used to be able to, say 2-3 years ago, when we needed X amount sample size of data, pull it down into a model, run that model, and then determine the outcomes of our A/B tests. So there's a lot of AI, back to your question too, around maybe what stops people from using it. There's a lot of AI tools built into the platforms you're already using. Yeah. So leveraging those to get real-time insights can not only help you say, oh, I should put more budget here versus there, but also maybe let's emphasize this creative message here for one audience versus another. We know personalization is key. So any AI insights we can use to drive that personalization, huge.
When AI helps us come to an understanding of what's high performing or what's working most effectively, can we then also, if we're putting content into generative AI that we produce, could we also say, now evaluate the effectiveness of this, or what changes would you make? What recommendations would you have knowing these things about what's high performing in our content?
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of can look at not only the results of that, to your point, Allison, but also then, so what comes out of that? Where do we want to go from there? It also can be a great way to help us determine where to best invest our time. We know marketers are, as we were talking about, constantly trying to evaluate and judge their own list of priorities. So, okay, coming out of these results and these findings, where should we then push our energy to? Because we know this audience is the most viable to help us hit our enrollment goals. Or maybe this audience needs extra love and they need more kind of entry-level messaging to then take that next step to even move from prospect to inquiry. Okay, how can we customize what we're doing and where we're investing our time in our team?
The opportunity is clear, right? But it still feels maybe overwhelming. It could, if you've not used any of these tools yet, right? Like the possibilities are there, but how do we actually do this? How do we get started? So what are some practical low barrier ways that someone listening can start leveraging AI to help us with these big challenges that we face on our campuses?
I think one way that you can start, which for me was sort of like, okay, where do I even begin? There are so many tools, and every day we open our laptops and there's another one. And I think to your point, Allison, about the social media options, I think doing something that is very low stakes as your step one into AI. If this is your first time exploring AI, first of all, I would recommend the Google AI, Google Gemini, or Claude. Those two are the most user-friendly options. Gemini is free. Throw in an email that you're going to send to a colleague and ask it to reword it, or ask AI to adjust this based on what you're trying to do. Maybe you want to send this email and get an action out of someone. Maybe prompt it with, look at this email and adjust this to get a response back. And, this is a low stakes way that you can just ask ask AI to do something where you're not actually putting this out in the market. You're not putting this in a social media post. You're not putting this in an email flow. It's something really easy for you to just step one, basic entry into AI. But I think one way is also back to the point of taking AI-driven insights and influencing your campaign decisions. You can take social media posts that have been really successful. You've gotten really great traction. Put all of those into generative AI and ask it, these have been our most successful posts. Give me 15 more captions or give me 15 more content ideas. I see that as more like a brainstorming tool. That's personally how I use AI, is really kind of my smart intern that's brainstorming for me. Again, low stakes. You're not actually putting any of this in market, but it's really kind of that kickstarting your ideas and forming things based on your results that you've had in the past, but also kind of giving new ideas to move forward with.
Yeah. That last example is a really important one, Sarah, because it showcases how you're still important. First of all, you are the one who analyzed what's working the best. Mm-hmm. Second of all, you're not just going to copy and paste those 15 captions and put them, you're discerning. You've got the critical thinking piece that's missing from the AI that you then can apply to it to make that decision. But Katie, what's your advice?
Yeah, I was going to say 2 tools that come to mind for me if they're helpful for others. One is, and I'll say the web address slowly, it's goblin.tools. And you will go to this website and you will think it was built in 2005. Like, that's how simplistic it is. But it already has, basically, Goblin Tools is an AI generator, and it has like 8 jobs. They have a to-do list, a professor, a judge, a consultant, even a chef. You can drop in, the ingredients you have in your house and it will tell you a recipe to make. But one of my favorite jobs on there that it has is called the compiler. And it's where you can just input a brain dump and it will turn it into a to-do list. So again, your point, Allison, you're controlling the input. You are the user and saying, here's everything that's on the top of my mind today. We all know that 2 a.m. feeling of, oh my gosh, what's going to keep me up tonight? And you put it in there and it will turn it into a to-do list, even with like little micro steps as to how to get everything done. So that's a great tool to play around with. The other one that Sarah and I geek out on all the time, another free tool, is Perplexity. Perplexity is great for research. So if you are interested in, hey, tell me everything I need to know about this competitor down the road, or tell me everything I need to know about computer science engineering, a degree that's way over my head, but I need to market it or find students for it. Perplexity is a great free tool that gives you great research summaries, but it also sources all of its information. So you can see what's coming from Wikipedia, what's coming from YouTube, and you can also eliminate sources like, I don't want to know what people are saying about it on Reddit. Take that out. So it's a really great tool that also allows you to feel confident or allows you to easily double check all of the information that you're given. So those would be the 2 that I think are great, like entry-level AI tools.
Of course, I had to log on and look at Goblin after you said that. You're right. It is simplistic, straightforward. But what cool things. It has the chef. If you give it the recipes, it'll make you a recipe based on the ingredients that you have, which is another great way to get started. You don't even have to do this for work. You could do it for something personal, like something you're going to cook or a trip that you're going on, which might feel like a good place to start. Those are just helping you, and it's not even about the content that you're putting out as your brand, right? Which might be where that scary and fear feeling comes in. Thank you guys so much for being on the show. How can our listeners find you if they'd like to connect?
Yeah, absolutely. If you'd love to learn more about Vision Point Marketing, we're a higher ed exclusive marketing agency. VisionPointMarketing.com will be the place.
If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe, save, share this episode, and check out the show notes. We'll definitely put links to some of the resources that Sarah and Katie were giving us. And if your team has used AI to overcome challenges, we'd love to hear from you. Drop me a message on LinkedIn and let us know what's working. Until next time, keep innovating, keep experimenting, and keep breaking those silos. The application is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed tech shows that are jam-packed stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our shows help higher ed marketers and admissions professionals find their next big idea, and they feature a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Jamie Hunt, Seth Odell, Day Kibbles, Jeremy Tiers, and so many other of your favorite higher ed leaders. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.